to the world above. Chapter 5. As we approach the beanstalk, I see Charlotte has set up camp next to the roots. She looks up from her small fire pit. Relief floods her eyes, and she races toward me, bringing me into a firm hug. "Jack, you made it! I was worried you'd been captured." Once she releases me, she stares at Princess Valerie. She stumbles back. "You're alive? He really found you? What about the other two?" I shake my head and answer so Valerie doesn't have to repeat the story. "They didn't make it, Charlotte. We failed them." Charlotte clutches at her chest as if to dig out her heart. She then kneels to the dirt, begging forgiveness. "Please forgive me, my lady. I could have helped greatly, but I was afraid and greedy. I wasn't thinking of anyone but myself. I am truly sorry and seek to repent for my actions in any way I can." Valerie gestures for her to stand. "Then help us bring down this beanstalk and reclaim my kingdom." Charlotte nods and lifts her hands to shrink the massive plant. Before she uses her magic, I grab her arm. "Wait, Charlotte. We need to confirm whether or not the giants and trolls are climbing down. Can you leave them without anything to cling to?" She frowns and stares up at the stalk. When she looks back at me, she asks, "Just what did you do while I was gone?" "He killed a troll, and he told them about the surface." Valerie explains. "You did what?" "Jack! Why would you bring them down here?" I hold out my hands in surrender. "It ain't like that. The plan is to defeat them as they climb down. I swear! Now can you do it or not?" She glances at Valerie and then holds her hands out again, closing her eyes. I can sense movement on the stalk. "If what you say is true, then it must be the giants." Green magic glows around the beanstalk. Unlike when she reversed the plant's growth so we could get down quickly, Charlotte speeds up the process to the point where it starts to decay and curl in on itself. Valerie and I step back as the beanstalk weakens and shrivels to the ground. As it crashes, we stare at the sky to catch a glimpse of the giants. Eventually, we spot 5 of them hanging on to the crumbling stalk. The dirt rumbles as the rest of the stalk lands along with the 3 giants and 2 trolls. Thankfully, the stalk falls in the direction of the sea, so it is unlikely it hit anyone other than the ugly creatures we were trying to kill. "Did we do it?" Charlotte asks. "Only one way to find out," Valerie says, heading off to find the bodies. I follow her, my hand resting on my sword's hilt. Charlotte lags behind, but eventually she joins us. When we find the first body, the giant is clearly dead. She is smashed between the stalk and the earth, with nothing but her large hand showing underneath the pile of greenery. We continue along the beach, searching for the others. The beach becomes rocky, and the waves lap against the dead remains of the plant. There's no sign of the last 4 that were heading down to the surface. Then, Charlotte screams behind Valerie and me. We spin to see Kara and Tralgar have somehow managed to survive. Kara holds Charlotte up by her throat while her feet kick. Princess Valerie runs forward and holds up her hand, and with a loud voice she yells, "Stop!" From then on, everything sounds like a graveyard. The only noises to be heard are the ocean and the howling wind that blows her pink hair. Kara steps closer to Valerie, reading her face and seeing it is full of fear and doubt. The giant chuckles, overthrowing the sound of the waves. Valerie watches as Kara crushes a large crab right under her fat foot. "You remind me of your mother. So tiny. So helpless." I see Princess Valerie gulp, then she gets the frog out of her throat. "You don't need to kill her. We'll get your heart back, and you can have me as your obedient pet." Kara laughs but releases Charlotte, who falls to the ground unconscious. "You really think we came down here for you alone?" No, we want him." Kara let out a puff of air, making Princess Valerie gag. Valerie covers me from view with her arms and says defiantly, "Well, you can't have him either." Tralgar sneers, racing forward. Apparently, he has had enough chit-chat as he grabs Princess Valerie. She kicks and screams, and once she is close enough, she pokes one of his eyes. The troll drops her, but Kara swoops in and ties Princess Valerie up using the vines of the beanstalk. My feet shift. I need to do something, but I don't have a strength potion like last time. I'm terrified. All I wanted was to be my mom's hero. How did it come to this? I grip the sword tighter and brim with confidence. I might have messed up big time, but this is my chance to truly save Valerie and Charlotte. There's more screaming from Princess Valerie. As of now, she is out of the reach of Kara again, kicking and biting her way out despite her feet being tied. She scrabbles away, her green ribbon slipping out of her hair. Just as Tralgar dares to pick her up again, I bolt between Valerie and the creatures. Then I force the lump in my throat down as I yell, "I'm who you want! Kill me!" Kara and Tralgar forget about Valerie and face me. I hold my ground as Kara sneers. Bravely, I also hold eye contact with the brutal creature. "Such stupidity to accept your death," the giant says to me. As I try not to stutter or pull out my sword, I say, "Some people like to call that kind of thing courage. As for me, I like to think it's the right thing to do." "How nice," Kara says, acting like she is truly touched by my words. "Guess you'll die happy then." Then I stand straight and close my eyes, waiting for her teeth to sink into my body. Honestly, being eaten raw isn't the way I planned to go. I always imagined my death would be by disease or hunger. However, this is a braver way to die. Guess Kara is right about me being an idiot. I hear an awful shriek and then my name. I know it's Valerie's scream, and it surprises me that she would care enough to remember my name, let alone shout it out in horror as I'm about to die. Doesn't she hate me? I keep my eyes shut. I can't look at her. If I do, I'll see the tears in her eyes and feel all the more guilty. She shouldn't cry for me. She should be using this time to escape. My mind plays with the idea of dying in a sword fight, where I kill the giant and save the girl, but get stabbed myself. Then the beautiful damsel will kiss me as I fade into the afterlife. That's when I think of my mother. And gosh darn it, I open my eyes to see Princess Valerie running at me. She continues to scream my name. When she gets to me, she knocks me down to the ground. Behind us, Kara and Tralgar are about to strike, but then I see blasts of magic hit them along with arrows and spears. I now understand why Valerie rushed over. She needed to get me out of the way of the fairy squad's target. It is strange that the beachfront suddenly turned into a battlefield. Plus now I am pinned to the ground with Princess Valerie on top of me. Her hair is completely out of its ponytail with her green ribbon missing. Valerie stares down at me, and her tangled hair brushes my face. I'm in a complete daze as I look at her scruffed-up face. Then I see Trogler is about to take a mighty swing at us. I take Princess Valerie's head and bring it into my chest and roll away. Knights on Pegasus's swoop in, distracting the troll. When we are safe again, I try to stand up, but she keeps me down in the sand. "Why did you do that? Why did you?" I protest right back. "You owe me nothing!" Her mouth gapes open, and then she says, "We don't have time for this." "Oh, still avoiding questions, are we? Well, goodness princess, I'll at least give you an answer. I happen to have a soul and feel guilt. You shouldn't be caged like a bird just because I—" My rant is stopped when she yanks me to my feet and pulls me away from the danger as the missing giant and troll appear at Kara and Tralgar's side. Despite Valerie's pulling, I glance back at the fight to see the 2 giants and 2 trolls holding their own against 16 fairies and Pegasus knights. I still haven't the faintest clue where the soldiers came from, but I'm grateful all the same. Once we are out of harm's way, Valerie says, "Look, this was never your fight to begin with. And well, you did come back. What I'm trying to say is, your life is worth more than my pride. The Creator already knows I'm a terrible princess." "That you are," Lord Ledger says as a knife spins towards Valerie's head. I hug her close to me, and the knife sails into the dead beanstalk behind us. If he hadn't said anything, he might have been able to kill her. But it's clear he wanted her to know, and as I look at the band of fairies, I realize the truth. Valerie does as well. "You double-crossed your new friends and sent word to Terranil," she says. "And now in the chaos, you're going to kill me." Lord Ledger smiles as he spins the knives in the air above him. "Your confinement has worked wonders on you, Valerie. It seems like it was only last week that you were refusing to attend a banquet in favor of riding your Pegasus. That was last week, she growls. I guess it was. I see his game plan as soon as he says those words. Already holding on to Valerie, I run as the knives fly at us. They stick to the beanstalk, but Lord Ledger uses his magic to force them out again and hunt us down. Could Valerie use this kind of magic? If so, what did she need to use hers again? As far as I'm aware, witches need rest to fuel their power. Is fairy magic different? So, how do we beat your uncle? I ask as we continue to run along the beach. Good question. Unfortunately, I'm not intentionally holding back an answer, she says before skidding to a stop as her uncle flies ahead of us. The knives form a circle, and we are pinned down. I pull out my sword, but I know it will be pointless against floating weapons. Valerie gets back to back with me, picking up a piece of driftwood. Just as we're about to lose miserably, a blond boy dressed in green sails through the air on a beautiful Pegasus with a girl seated behind him. The Pegasus' hooves crash into Lord Ledger, and he tumbles to the ground while the knives surrounding Valerie and me drop to the sand. Peter Pan, I mutter. He's real. Jack, Valerie says, dragging my attention back to her uncle. Lord Ledger stands, rolling his shoulders back and stretching his translucent black wings. He spits out blood while his eyes narrow at us, and then he glances behind him at Peter Pan, who landed his Pegasus on the beach. The Lord is surrounded, but I'm almost certain he has a knife or two up his sleeve. The girl accompanying Peter dismounts the Pegasus and aims an arrow at Lord Ledger. We all wait for him to attack. Instead of making a move, he gets down on his knees and raises his hands in the air. The girl steps closer, her curled ponytail swishing as she walks. I can tell she's of noble birth with her sky-blue garment that has a silver Pegasus crest. She is obviously familiar with the Lord as she speaks his name distastefully. A little fairy warned me of your betrayal. Surely you didn't think your plan would work, Lord Ledger. And what fairy would that be, Princess Zelilia? A knight with black swan wings and clad in armor lands directly in front of the Lord. The knight removes his helmet and tosses it in the sand. Although I can't see his face, I recognize the red of his hair. I know I'm not mistaken when Valerie whispers a name in disbelief. It was her brother, the Crown Prince of Chana. He somehow escaped. Your nephew, who you left for dead, Valerie's brother says, his voice powerful and thick with authority. Lord Ledger clenches his fist. His entire plan is falling apart, and there is no chance he can become king now. He'd have to kill Valerie and her brother plus Peter and Zelilia. All he achieved was his own downfall. Meanwhile, I'm in a state of complete bliss. Valerie's brother survived. Yes, I still feel terrible for leaving them to die, but the fact he is alive is a huge relief. I can only assume their sister escaped as well. We both know you're not suited to be king, Xander. You never were. You're a cheat and a fraud just like me. Xander pulls out a sword strapped to his side. The tip of the blade touches Lord Ledger's chin. A drop of blood leaks out of the Lord's skin and drizzles onto the sword. My attention is drawn away from them when my eyes catch a trace of movement. One of the knives shifts in the sand. I yank out my sword, slashing the air as the knife shoots up. The two metals clang together as I hit the knife back to the ground, stopping it from sailing into Xander's back. However, the remaining knives speedily shoot up. Valerie and I attempt to stop them, but two of them get past us. Xander! Valerie shouts. At the last second, Xander shifts his body. The knives continue forward and slam into Lord Ledger's chest. He gasps and struggles to breathe. Xander draws his sword away from his uncle. Goodbye, uncle, Xander says as Lord Ledger falls face into the sand, dead. Zelilia and Peter back away from the scene and look towards the remaining fight further up the beach. They run off, leaving us with the body. I feel invisible as Xander turns to Valerie. They stare intently at each other with water building up in their eyes. I can only imagine they thought the other was dead. When Xander smiles sadly at Valerie, she drops her piece of driftwood and sprints forward. They hug while I scan the area. The battle with the trolls and giants is nearly settled. The knights successfully put down one troll and one giant, and only Kara and Tralgar are left. I should find Charlotte and see if she's okay. I move my feet, but as soon as I do, Xander calls to me. His voice shakes my very core, and I wince. I knew this would happen. You stay there. I obey Xander, not moving an inch. He and Valerie approach me, and his eyes land on the sword I stole from his room. He stops about a foot away, which is too close for comfort. I don't like how tall he is compared to me nor the dark red in his eyes. You saved my sister. I was fearful she was dead. Thank you. You may keep my sword to signify your bravery. I raise my eyebrows. Really? Are you sure? Honestly, I deserve to have fruit thrown at me or something. I left you for dead. Xander clamps a hand down on my shoulder, squeezing it so tightly I nearly faint. Yes, and I did not think you would return. Yet you did and killed those creatures while you were at it. I don't think. Valerie cuts me off. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Jack deserves more than a sword, Xander. I suggest we make him our envoy. We'll have to communicate with the kingdoms here on the surface from now on, and he would make an excellent messenger who would know their customs. I frown. Me? An envoy for royalty to speak with other royals? She must have lost her mind. I am a farm boy and would do them no good as an advisor of any sort. My hand grasps the sword firmly. No, thank you. I stammer. There are better options. I'm no one important down here, so I'm sorry if I made you think that. I'll just keep the sword and call it good. Valerie bites her lip but says nothing else. Xander merely nods, but then he pulls out a potion and places it in my free hand. Please take this as well. It will allow you to transform into any beast once you add a sample of the animal's hair. This is what saved me and my sister's life. I study the liquid skeptically. So far magic has only brought me trouble, and the idea of turning into an animal isn't thrilling. Sure, I could turn into a bird and fly around, but I would have to be careful I was near the ground before I changed back. Plus, I don't think I'm ready to use magic again. Regardless, I accept the potion and pray they won't offer me anything else. Where is your other sister? I ask, looking over at the fairy knights who bind Kara and Tralga with magic using the beanstalk as rope. I don't see anyone resembling Valerie and Xander. I glance away when Kara's large eyes glue to mine. Xander points to the clouds and says, Elaine is reclaiming our home with the help of the Dragon Lord. Whatever giants and trolls stayed behind in the castle are now someone else's dinner for a change. I want to laugh at his joke, but the thought of dragons tearing giants apart is terrifying. Just what kind of world have I introduced to my home? I've heard tales of dragons in Peter Pan, but now I know they are very real. Nothing would ever be the same. First, mermaids, then witches, and now fairies and elves. Xander makes his way to the others, ready to confront his kidnappers. Valerie moves to follow him, but then she looks back at me. Our eyes meet, and she opens her mouth to say something. I want to wish her luck or give some type of meaningful goodbye. Nothing comes out. She doesn't find the words she is looking for either as she simply says, Farewell. Farewell. I repeat, and then I watch her gather with her brother, Peter, and Zalilia. I watch for a few moments, feeling so small in comparison to nobles, giants, and trolls. The feeling increases when I witness Derwin's royal carriage pull up to the scene escorted by armored guards. I know it's the king and queen of Derwin when I see the light blue hair of Queen Bree. Then I notice Charlotte being healed by a fairy. I race to her side as she sits down on a rock. She smiles up at me, and the fairy leaves us. I take the fairy's spot, and we both stare at the aftermath. The prince and his sister are alive, I say. Charlotte sighs. That's good to hear. I can't believe the mess we've caused, but maybe it won't be so bad. I extend the magic potion Xander gave me to Charlotte. Here. A gift from the Crown Prince Xander. Charlotte purses her lips but takes the vial. I didn't know thievery and abandonment were rewarded. That's how I feel, but he insisted I keep his sword and the potion. Charlotte pats my back. Well, Jack, you did save Princess Valerie and kill a troll. I would say there's some merit in that. I, on the other hand, haven't done much to earn their respect. I stand completely furious with her. What do you mean? You brought the beanstalk down and killed 2 of them. Valerie witnessed that. And you came back to save her too. Charlotte's eyes crinkle. It was your idea, but thanks. I'll see you around, Jack. She leaves without a word more. I don't think she believes me, but I wouldn't have gotten very far without her. The wind blows, and I feel something land on my feet. Valerie's green ribbon rests against my boot. I stoop down and pick it up. I want to return it to her, but as I look at the crowd of nobles surrounding Kara and Tralgar, I refrain. Instead, I head home.